Hello students, and welcome to a presentation about logical fallacies. It's important to understand what a logical fallacy is when writing an argument, because it's something really you want to be able to identify and you want to be able to avoid in your own writing. A logical fallacy is essentially a flaw in reasoning. And it is your responsibility as the writer to ensure that any claims that you make in your argument are both logical and ethical. And, regarding being ethical, your arguments need to, uh, and you need to make sure that your arguments are valid and reliable. And so knowing what these logical fallacies are and how best to avoid them will help you with that. For example, it's unethical to use words or statements that you know are going to convince your reader or your audience, but maybe those statements aren't necessarily based in fact. If you intentionally mislead the reader, this can have negative effects on your reliability as a writer, your credibility as a writer, and is considered unethical. Now, arguments in general are going to most likely be geared toward one of the appeals listed here, either ethos, pathos, or logos. Ethos is an appeal to the sense of credibility and reliability. Pathos appeals to the emotions of the reader, and logos appeals to logic. And just so you're aware, fallacies can be used in any or all of these appeals, as you will see when we discuss a few fallacies coming up. Here are some examples of some pretty familiar, pretty prevalent logical fallacies. They include bandwagon, red herring, straw man. And so we'll talk about each one of these to ensure that you understand them, and as well as to make them a little easier to identify. Bandwagon, the idea behind this particular logical fallacy is that because everybody else believes it to be true, it has to be true. Kind of the idea behind when everyone says that the earth was flat, just because everyone said that did not make it necessarily true. You'll find that sometimes you'll have commercials that make the statement, "Oh, everybody's trying this particular brand of toothpaste," or "Everybody likes this particular brand of pop." That's they're trying to get you to jump on the bandwagon, so to speak, and that's something you'll notice a lot in advertising, especially. A red herring, this one's fun. It distracts the audience from the real issue at hand. The goal is to abandon the regular current argument. Sometimes this is used in literature to distract a reader from the real culprit. This would be used in mystery novels. You probably heard the term, it was a red herring. It was the custodian all along. Not to reference Scooby-Doo, but I guess I just did. The example here would be, say, there's a topic of pollution being discussed at a community meeting, but then somebody brings up the idea of garbage trucks making too much noise early in the morning, and that takes us out of the first argument, the real issue at hand, and may even lead the meeting to focus more on the garbage truck issue. And so we've abandoned the real argument here, and that is an example of a red herring. Ad hominem is probably one you'll see very much in the political sphere, and that's attacking the person instead of addressing what they said. This cartoon here, I know it's a little difficult to read. It says, we've got two geese. It says, "We share many genetic characteristics with ducks because we have evolved from a common ancestor." And the other goose says, "You're closed-minded and stupid and you eat corn. You don't know anything." So that's just a pretty good example of what this means. When you abandon the issue at hand totally and just attack the person raising the argument. And again, a lot of this going on in politics. Could be termed like mudslinging, for example. And then here's straw man. This is when someone refutes an argument that wasn't raised in the first place. This can be very confusing. It's almost like you're confusing your audience here. They're going to misrepresent the issue at hand to make it easier to argue against. And this is a good example. It says, Ted says, "Biological evolution is both a theory and a fact." Edwin responds, "That is ridiculous. How can you possibly be absolutely certain that we evolved from pond scum?" Ted says, "Actually, that is a gross misrepresentation of my assertion. I never claimed we evolved from pond scum. Unlike math and logic, science is based on empirical evidence, and therefore a scientific fact is something that is confirmed to such a degree that it would be perverse to withhold provisional consent. The empirical evidence for the fact that biological evolution does occur falls into this category." So I guess we can say that Ted effectively shut Edwin down, but notice that Edwin was trying to make it about something a little different. Maybe Edwin doesn't understand biological evolution, so he's condensing it to the idea that we evolved from pond scum to make it easier for him to argue against it. Just one of many. There are so many different logical fallacies out there. Definitely something you want to be aware of. We will cover more of those in this class, because as you're writing your arguments, you want to be able to identify those in other people's arguments, as well as when you write your own arguments, you want to try and avoid these at all costs. And here is my list of references for this particular slideshow, and you are welcome to contact me with any questions. Have a great day.